Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. It is so, we so desperately need legal minds like yours because I guess the makeup of this Supreme Court is what's just acid reflux inducing for a lot of us. So let's talk about everything that's going on. First of all, Judge pauses Trump's 2020 election case, which gives me a rumbly tumbly. Judge Chutkan paused the election interference case over Wednesday as the Supreme Court considers whether to honor Jack Smith's request that they quickly review Trump's claim to immunity from prosecution. Ultimately, if the Supreme Court does not rule in favor of the former president's favor, it may come right back to Judge Chutkan as we start the process all over again. But this would definitely be a delay, which seems like that's always Donald Trump's point. But please break down for us what your take is on what's happening.
So you're absolutely right. This is a delay tactic on his part. The expedited hearing is one that can short circuit that. And I just want to go back to history. Fast is possible. A speedy decision is possible. In Watergate, we subpoenaed for trial. We indicted in March. April 16th, we subpoenaed tapes. And in May, the Supreme Court said they would take it. They canceled their summer break because, normally they're gone after June.
And they didn't cite the Grinch for Christmas like the Trump team did.
Yes,
they didn't cite Alice Cooper that school's out.
You don't get to go to the Hamptons or on a fancy airplane to somewhere that Leonard Leo is going to take Justice Thomas. Anyway, they heard the argument, and within a week after the arguments, they ruled that we had a right to the tapes. That was in July. So from the subpoena, April to July, it's no time at all. From the decision of the district court, Judge Sirica ruled in our favor. We did what Jack Smith has done. We skipped going to the appellate court, the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, and asked the Supreme Court, we said, you're going to get this anyway, speed this up and take it. And we need this for trial. The trial was set at that point for September. End of September, it ended up being October 1st, but we need it for trial. And so please take it right now. If you wait until you come back, it's going to be too late. And so they did, and they ruled fast. And there's no reason why this can't be fast. And to me, the answer is obvious. He does not have immunity to commit crimes that are not part of his official duties. And I cannot see how anything he did, as alleged in this indictment, is part of his official duties. So he cannot be immune.
Well, that I am, even as a layperson, a little confident on. If I was saying, otherwise, if they rule in his favor, Biden can shoot Trump on Fifth Avenue, and right. I mean, I'm not being funny, and get away with it because that's what they would be ruling. I can't imagine even this.
All Biden would have to say is, I did it as part of my job to protect democracy. He's a threat to democracy, so I did this.
Right.
And no one would believe it. But if the court rules in favor of Donald Trump in this, same thing.
Yeah. Well, okay. But Jill, I guess we've had this conversation so many times that, how many people have said Nixon would have got away with it if there was right-wing radio and Fox News at the time. Well, we have, in my opinion, a thoroughly corrupt, compromised Supreme Court packed with, the Clarence Thomas, who, if ever there was a case for recusal, right, him ruling on, when his wife is involved in January 6th, he gets to rule on January 6th cases. He's the sole vote against, the last time against Trump not having to turn over January 6th documents. He's clearly compromised.
You are completely right. And the attempt by the Supreme Court to say, okay, we're going to have a code of conduct. We're going to have ethics rules. And so go away. Don't keep bothering us. What they did does not solve the problems that they face. It's still too vague. It still leaves it to justices to determine whether they must recuse. There's no oversight. There's no enforcement. It doesn't do the job. So that's really bad. But, the other difference, you mentioned that if there had been a Fox News, he would have gotten away with it. It certainly would have helped. But actually, as bad as Nixon was, he actually believed in the rule of law. And when he was told that he would be convicted on the impeachment charges if he didn't resign, he actually had shame and he resigned.
Yeah.
He left office. And today,
that's
Donald
the thing
Trump
that's missing,
would
shame.
never do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Entirely missing from the Republican Party. The hypocrisy. I mean, I can't even imagine what you think of this impeachment that they voted on yesterday. That you said all the lies that led to this impeachment inquiry, approval by unanimous GOP bent on protecting Trump despite zero evidence. Biden did anything wrong. I mean, can you ever have imagined such a thing? They have absolutely zero evidence of any crime.
They can't even identify the crime they are investigating. And to the extent that they have said anything or shown us any of their cards, so to speak, they're investigating what his son did. And as far as I know, you are not responsible for your children's conduct.
Right.
There is no evidence that any money went from his son to him, except for a repayment of a car loan that his father helped with, as many fathers and families do for their children, especially children who are suffering from a drug addiction. I'm so hopeful that Hunter Biden will be an image for other parents of addicted children, that they can overcome the addiction, because I have a friend who's had a child who was addicted, and I did research on the chances of recovery, even at the best rehab centers.
Yes.
Pathetically low. It's so uncommon for someone to overcome addiction.
I would doubt there is a family out there that hasn't experienced addiction, whether it's a family member, friend, some loved one. So, I mean, I think you're right. The American people get that. But let's go back.
But he seems to be clean, and I hope he stays clean. Yeah. It's just, particularly with this kind of pressure on him.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm worried whether he would relapse.
Yeah. No, well, he said that the other day. Mm-hmm. He said, they're trying to, knowing that killing me would be right. I mean, with what Joe Biden's already been through. Yeah. So let's talk about the other, rumbly-tumbly producing Supreme Court thing. Supreme Court said it will hear an appeal that could upend hundreds of charges stemming from the Capitol riot, including against former President Trump. The justices will review an appellate ruling that revived a charge against 3 defendants accused of obstruction of an official proceeding. That's among the 4 counts brought against Trump. As you know, the court's decision to weigh in on the obstruction charge could threaten the start of Trump's trial, currently scheduled for March 4th. Justices separately considering whether to rule quickly on Trump's claim he can't be prosecuted, the immunity thing that we already talked about. A federal judge has rejected that argument. So does that part of it worry you more than because I agree with you that I cannot imagine even this court is going to rule he has some sort of presidential immunity from everything. But what about this other part?
No, first of all, I don't think that it is the kind of argument that will delay the trial. So that's the first thing, because I think justice delayed is justice denied. And I think it's important that the case go forward to trial. And so this one is not jurisdictional in the same way as the immunity is. And so that relieves me a lot to know that it won't affect the trial. I think the argument, it's not frivolous, but I can't imagine saying that this is not an official proceeding. And to limit the official proceeding to the kind of thing that was considered when that law was passed. So I think that ultimately it will. And the other thing is that there are 2 other crimes charged that have nothing to do with that. So even if that wasn't part of the trial, or even if it was and then it was overturned because of the law, he would still have been tried on 2 other counts. The 2 that are involved with this official proceeding question do carry a 20-year sentence, which is the heaviest sentence that would matter. But I don't, honestly, yes, I think he deserves 20 years. I think anyone who violates that deserves 20 years. But number one, he wouldn't get 20 years. And number 2, he's 80, almost 80. So right. 20, he'd be 100.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs a 20-year sentence. So
yeah, but he's in great shape, obviously.
Right. And he needs to be taken out of circulation and not allowed to speak his lies.
Yeah.
That would be more important to me than whether it's a 20-year sentence or a 5.
Yeah. By the way, he seemed confused. I know you're that's shocking to you. He appeared confused during a rally yesterday, saying Jack Smith is prosecuting him, trying to, quote, get a guilty plea from the Supreme Court. He said, let's rush it to the Supreme Court. We got to rush it. Nothing's changed. They could have started this 3 years ago, but they didn't. They started recently with this crap. First of all, this was already happening. Right. He started running in the middle of his indictments, not the other way around. Yeah. But they want to get it. Because, of course, Jack Smith, I do think that's a baller move. He kind of called his bluff. He's like, the Supreme Court will rule I have immunity. And Jack Smith's like, okay, let's go. And he's like, wait, what? No. So, he can't simultaneously argue, I am immune and I'm innocent and that's, but I don't want the Supreme Court to hear it. Right.
He is hypocritical, but that's nothing new. Right. He has always been hypocritical in what he does and says. And but, you mentioned something that really is, I think, extremely important, which is that's a gaffe when he says that. And does the press cover it?
Yeah.
Not so much. Do they cover even the slightest misstatement by Joe Biden?
Yeah.
They repeat it over and over and over and over. And it's time for some fairness in the media coverage of the two candidates.
Yeah. Joe, we have to talk about Texas. You tweeted, who can blame her for leaving Texas to end the danger to her health due to Texas denying her essential medical care for carrying a fetus with a fatal fetal abnormality? No one should go through this. I bet Texas loses job recruits because of this. I also think, as we keep calling it, there's going to be, I think, unbelievable Roe rage, as everyone is calling it, in 2024. Because the more and more of these stories, and this one out of Ohio, the woman's being prosecuted for a miscarriage. These stories are going to get more and more heartbreaking and infuriating, aren't they?
They are. And don't forget, Arizona has a law from 1864, which they resurrected when Roe was undone. That had been the law of Arizona. And so it went back to being the law. And Arizona is in a mess right now. It's in court right now, and there has to be a decision as to whether or not there's a 15-week ban. Is there a 0-week ban? Mm-hmm. And so it's widespread. Arizona's trying to get the same kind of ballot initiative. And I am sure that anywhere there's a ballot initiative, it's going to pass.
Yeah.
Illinois passed it before it became a thing to do, and no one was paying much attention. It didn't get a lot of, PR.
Yeah.
If we were doing it now, it would be a big deal.
Yeah. Well, so let's to sum up on the Supreme Court. Now, in any legal case you've ever worked on, no one cited The Grinch or Green Eggs and Ham or any Dr. Seuss book?
Not that I'm aware of. And it sort of was like, you're a comedian, so you know that a joke that doesn't go well sort of really falls flat and it's not funny.
Yeah.
If they were trying to be humorous. And the question is, they're now taking the same argument to the Supreme Court. That was, to the Court of Appeals. Are they going to do the same thing in the Supreme Court briefs that are due soon?
I know.
I hope not.
It would have been funny in Watergate if they had said, as Alice Cooper said, school's out. For summer. School's out forever.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. It is the lawyers who represent Donald Trump have said publicly things that I'm sure they will be ashamed of. But did you see that Michael Cohen's lawyers may be sanctioned?
Yeah.
They apparently quoted cases in asking for his early release from the conditions of his release. Cases that don't appear to exist. The court has found no evidence that they exist.
Oh boy.
And so that was a surprise. Lawyers have to be a lot more careful. I don't know if that was an AI mistake or what happened.
I'm sure Rudy Giuliani will be fine. He's about to go through some things. Have you ever seen? Someone said, I think it was our Glenn Kirschner said, it would be like robbing a bank on your way into court. For bank robbery. He did it again. He defamed them on the steps of the...
It's and that's why he's not testifying, apparently, is the lawyers don't think they can control him, and that he will repeat on the stand the things that have already been found to be lies, defamatory, and deliberate. So if he does it again on the stand, imagine how the jury would react. Oh, my God.
I know. Jill, just to sum up, and for those that have just tuned in, because Supreme Court's obviously where everyone's focus are, What time frame do you think they might rule in, and what do you think the outcome is going to be there? How concerned are you?
I would be concerned if they don't rule immediately. I mean, obviously, we're at a really bad time of year.
Yeah.
But I think they could rule certainly in early January, and that any delay to the trial, because I don't think the immunity argument is going to prevail,
Right.
Would be minor and could still go ahead. And so I'm maybe being Pollyanna because this is a different Supreme Court, and you cannot predict what this court's going to do. But even this court, under the scrutiny it is, must recognize that if it expects to have any public credibility, it must take this and do it quickly, that there is a reason why this needs to be done quickly.
Yeah, there couldn't be a more compelling national interest.